Truth is making a comeback. America's Top Stories with Lisa K. Donner.
If you're wondering why the Democrats want more immigrants, look no further than a new study that shows 63% of welfare households in the United States are headed by, you guessed it, non-citizens. This means the Dems can keep their base firmly under their thumb. It's a veritable twofer for them. People who will continue to vote for them to keep getting their checks, and those they can control. And let's face it, the left loves nothing more than people they can control. Joining me now is Joe Schaefer, who wrote an article about this for LibertyNation.com. Welcome to Truth is Making a Comeback, Joe.
Thank you.
It's 21 degrees here in the swamp, and
It feels cold down here. I don't know what the weather is, but I feel a little chilly.
Oh boy. So you wrote about an interesting study. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, sure. It's actually a very outrageous story. The Center for Immigration Studies studied U.S. Census Bureau data and determined that 63% of households in America headed by non-native citizens on some form of welfare. We were told that immigrants coming here enrich us, the diversity enriches us. Instead, they're proving to be a burden on the U.S. taxpayer. And what's really upsetting about it is the longer they're here, the more proportionally they go on welfare. So non-citizen households who have been here less than 10 years, the rate is 50%. Non-citizen households-led households who have been here more than 10 years, it goes up to 70%. So the longer they're here, the more likely they are to get on welfare programs that the taxpayer has to carry the burden for. So there's obviously the system's broken. This immigration is not enriching us. It's proving to be a burden, and it's a big scandal. I think the taxpayers should be outraged.
But for the Democrats, this is really a thing of beauty. I mean, they've got their built-in voting bloc. They're dependent on them. This is really politically a very good thing for the Dems.
It is for them. You look at the midterm elections, Georgia and Florida, they basically had a policy of getting out the immigrant vote to help progressive coalition, two radical candidates for governor, and they almost won both those races. So we're looking at a demographic future here. If we keep allowing these immigrants to come in, they're on welfare, so they're going to vote for the party that's giving them more welfare, and that's the Democrats. And we're going to see these states in Georgia and Florida may soon go the way of California, maybe not right away, but 10 years from now. And, the Democrats are apparently, their plan seems to be working.
Okay, you also talk a little bit about the native-born Americans and what this means for them.
Well, it's a yellow vest moment. It really is. If Trump can't pull through his reforms where he wants to screen for we can only have immigrants come in here who are not going to be a burden on the taxpayer, that doesn't happen. It's going to be like France, where France are having these protests because the lower classes and the middle classes, native-born French, they're carrying all this burden for these elites who want these migrants, want these immigrants, because they provide cheap labor for their corporate donors. And like you said, they provide voters for the big government types who want to stay in power. We better get a handle on this, or we're going to have protests here. And I think the taxpayers should protest because they are carrying the burden for their lives becoming more difficult. It's a really high outrage thing, and more Americans should be livid about it.
Thank you very much for your time. That's Joe Schaefer, Liberty Nation national correspondent hailing from Florida. Thanks for joining us today, Joe.
Thanks.
Truth is making a comeback. Visit us at LibertyNation.com.